Welcome back to the Thrifty Food Plan channel, friends. I am so glad you are here. Please do all the things you can below to help this channel out. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Today, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into what is actually a healthy, nutritious diet. As you know, this is a channel that plans around the USDA Thrifty Food Plan, thus the name. And I use that Thrifty Food Plan for budgeting, which is what you see here. And I use it for nutritional guidance because I am on a healing journey with my body after decades of alcohol abuse and need to be eating in a healthy, nutritious way so that my body can heal quicker. It's one of the things my doctor recommended to me. And so, one of the things I appreciate about the USDA Thrifty Food Plan is that in addition to the budgetary guidance, it also sort of tells me what percentage of my dollars should go to each of the nutritional categories: veg, fruit, grains, protein, dairy, and miscellaneous, in order to increase the likelihood that my nutritional needs are being met. Now, one thing to know as we get into this conversation is that when I was growing up, when I was a little girl, the USDA had a food pyramid, and that has now been replaced by My Plate, which is what you see here. And the My Plate program is clearly related to sort of the cost percentages that the USDA recommends in its Thrifty Food Plan, because the categories are the same except for that miscellaneous category. And miscellaneous is where like oils are and coffee are, spices, condiments, all that stuff goes into the miscellaneous category. And about a month ago, I did a video just talking about my frustration that I can't seem to ever keep my miscellaneous costs at 7%. I always overspend. And so I did sort of a longer video sort of about that struggle of mine because, I drink coffee every day and coffee's expensive. And so I'm almost always going over in the miscellaneous category. Plus, I want my food to taste good. So spices and condiments and stuff are important to me. When I posted that video, we talked about My Plate and we talked about the nutritional guidance with the Thrifty Food Plan. And a couple of our friends here on the channel, Melissa and Saniye, and if I am not saying names correctly, please correct me in the comments below. Help me be a better human. Both of them sort of pointed out that some of the nutritional guidance coming from the USDA is likely influenced by their other interests, kind of farm subsidies, the lobbyists they have to deal with, and sort of our medical and healthcare system. Osanier went so far as to say that this is by design. It's not an accident or corruption. It's actually how the system is supposed to be set up. And sure enough, as I did a little research, as if you watch this channel, I occasionally go down internet rabbit trails. There was a lot of information available out there on the internets about the influence of lobbyists and other special interests in terms of what ends up on My Plate and in terms of like the Thrifty Food Plan guidance the USDA puts out, because those things are related. This is an important time to be talking about this and thinking about this because the federal government right now has put together an advisory committee that will eventually sort of develop the USDA dietary guidelines that will go into effect in 2025. So apparently, I didn't know this, like every 5 years, the nutritional guidance from our federal government gets updated. And so the committee that's going to make recommendations about that is being put together right now, and their recommendations will go into effect in 2025. Now, if we're going to take lobbying and special interests and all of those things out of the nutritional guidance from our federal government, one voice we might listen to is the Harvard School of Public Health. And they have issued their own version of My Plate, and they call it the Healthy Eating Plate. And they claim, Harvard claims, that their eating plate is based exclusively on science, like what we know right now from a scientific perspective, and that their plate is completely free of, lobby and special interest influence. So let's look at sort of what is the same and what is different between these two plates. So on the left is the USDA My Plate, and on the right is Harvard's Healthy Eating Plate. They do share one thing in common, which is that both of the plates recommend that we eat fruit at every meal. So same recommendations on fruits. Vegetables. The USDA doesn't differentiate between vegetables, and one of the things that the Harvard School of Public Health talks about is that Americans undereat every vegetable except potatoes. So apparently we eat more potatoes than we should. And so Harvard is encouraging us to limit potatoes, eat a greater variety of veg, including leafy greens. Again, USDA treats all veg the same, and Harvard is saying, yo, peeps, cut down on your potato intake, try to increase some leafy greens and eat things other than potatoes. So on grains, apparently the USDA used to treat all grains the same. So white bread and whole wheat bread were treated the same. Apparently, in the most recent iteration of the nutritional guidance, they changed that to say at least half of our grains should be whole grains. Harvard says that's not enough. Like, actually, all of your grain intake should be whole grains. So whole wheat bread, brown rice, those sorts of things. So this is an area where there are pretty significant differences. Protein is another area with big difference because the USDA treats all proteins the same, right? A hot dog can count for your protein, and so can a chicken breast. The folks at Harvard, though, are saying, you know what? We really need y'all to limit your red meat and your processed meat. Like, don't eat it or eat very little of it, and focus on healthy protein, by which they mean fish, poultry, beans, and nuts. And I can just say, as a mostly whole food, plant-based vegan on the advice of my doctor, I appreciate the shout out here to beans and nuts. This is probably the biggest area of difference is dairy. So the USD recommends that we have dairy at every meal. And Harvard says, nope, have 1 to 2 servings of dairy per day, like limit your dairy intake. And instead, we want you to focus on drinking lots and lots and lots of water. Now, when I got sober and my doctor kind of, put me on a mostly whole food, plant-based diet to help my liver heal, he said the same thing. And he just told me to drink water all the time, because apparently most US citizens do not drink enough water. And if you have any health issues, being hydrated is super important. At the same time, though, I've always thought that dairy was important. And now that I am an older person and I'm really worried about osteoporosis and bone health, I've just continued to believe that it was important for me to have dairy, even if I'm drinking fortified soy milk and stuff like that, because I don't drink cow milk. But interestingly, Harvard says there is little, if any, evidence that high dairy intakes protect against osteoporosis. Y'all, I had no idea. I had no idea that this was the case. So I thought I'd pass that along. So, one thing that is on the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate that is not on the My Plate is oil, healthy oil. The USDA is completely silent on oils and fats, not even butter or margarine, nothing on the My Plate from the USDA. And what Harvard's basically says is that what matters most is the type of fat that you eat. And they want us to be eating things like canola, olive, and other plant oils in salads, in cooking, and at the dinner table, which I thought was very interesting that it's the type of fat that you eat that matters most. Fascinating. And then finally, on the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate, you see this little symbol here for stay active. And sort of what they say is that staying active is half the secret to weight control, the other half being, moderate portions of nutrient dense, healthy foods. Again, USDA is completely silent about the interplay between activity and what we put in our bodies in terms of our overall health and, I guess, weight control. So I would be really interested to sort of hear your thoughts on the benefits you see in each approach and the risks that you see in each approach. Like I, for one, really appreciated in the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate, kind of the explicit shout out to beans and nuts as a healthy protein. I really, really appreciated that. And that's certainly a benefit to me as someone who does not eat meat. I guess if I were to put a risk out there, I guess I would worry that, that's a big container of oil. And like, I don't think that what they are saying is drink a container of oil every day. I don't think they're saying eat a lot of fried foods. I think what they're saying is maybe saute, have a little in salad dressing. But a risk that I would see is that maybe you put a couple tablespoons of oil there instead of a whole oil bottle. I don't know. And then I've really just got to think about this whole dairy thing because it's so different from what I have known and believed basically my whole life about bone health. So again, would just love to hear from all of you about when you think about the My Plate versus the healthy food plate, when you think about this milk and water issue, when you think about the USDA saying all meats are the same and Harvard saying, wait a second, no, please eat that chicken breast and not the hot dog. I'd just love to hear your thoughts and thinking about what all this information means and how we make sense of it as consumers to try to make sure that we are eating a healthy, nutrient dense diet on a budget, right? Because hot dogs are less expensive than chicken. So, how do we think through some of those sorts of issues? Thanks so much for visiting, and thank you for sharing all of your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below and just helping me and everybody on this channel work through this nutrition question. And do come back next Thursday when we'll have another grocery haul and meal plan. Thanks so much for visiting.